All right, well, let's go ahead and get started again. And in this video, we're going to talk about Dreamweaver's templating feature. Now, really, before you can understand how templating in Dreamweaver works, you have to understand the problem that it's trying to solve or be a solution for. And for that, I actually want to take a look at the finished version of this website and have you think about either the website project you're working on right now or other websites that you have seen. On a web page, there are usually two different types of regions. There are some regions on a web page that are common amongst all the different pages for that site. For example, if we take our Xander Cafe example here, every page in our website is probably going to contain this title region right up here. It's also going to contain these links right up here. It's going to contain this banner image here, or a banner image here. Coming down here to the footer, our footer is going to be the same on most, if not all, of the pages on our website. The right-hand sidebar could be different on every page, or it could be the same. And you can think of probably many examples of websites where the sidebar is common on all the different pages, especially when it contains things like navigation links. The content area here is really going to be the area that is different on every single page in our example website. So those are the two different types of regions: common regions and custom regions, or as Dreamweaver calls them, template regions and editable regions. So in Dreamweaver, when we're talking about a template region, we're talking about areas on the page that are going to be common amongst all of the pages in your site. And when we talk about editable regions, we're talking about areas on the page that the content is going to differ from page to page. Now, why is this important? It's important because whenever you decide to go change your web page, if it's a change in one of the content regions, like right here, where the content is different on every page, you're going to be able to make that change, upload it, and you're going to be fine. But let's say you wanted to add a link up here to your top navigation, or you wanted to remove something, like let's say you wanted to remove the entertainment link. Or let's say we don't have a tagline for this site. Let's say we wanted to put a slogan or a tagline in here, or change the banner image that we're using, or do something as mundane as updating this copyright date here from 2013 to 2014. And you've probably seen lots of websites that something as simple as that is left undone, and you'll see, copyright 2008. So updating something as simple as the copyright notice in the footer. If you're going to do something like that, you're going to have to make that change on every single page that uses that element. So if you've got 30 pages in your website and you want to add a menu link up here, you're going to have to make that change on 30 different pages. If you want to update your footer and there's 100 pages in your website, you would need to make that change 100 times. So you can see the problem here with managing your website. Making simple changes that occur on multiple pages can be very time consuming. And it can also lead to you accidentally missing a page. If you're talking about, just a website that has 5 or 6 pages in it, this isn't that big of a deal. But if you're talking about a website that has 30, 40, 100 pages in it, it would be very easy to miss a page or to forget to update a particular page. Let's say you wanted to change the font that you're using. Well, again, that would require going and changing every single page in your website. Dreamweaver's templating system solves that problem for you because it allows you to control the common regions on a page from one single file, and then updating that one single file. That change cascades to all of the different pages in your template. So instead of having to make the change 30 different times, you just make it on one page, and then Dreamweaver automatically adjusts all of the pages that use that particular template. So templates are something that the concept is very simple, but the need that it serves is very, very large. And people that manually try and make all of their pages and keep them up to date quickly come to find that that's one of the biggest problems that they face. And programs like Dreamweaver and ExpressionWeb have this templating system that it uses to solve that problem. Other products have other solutions. Some websites use scripting language like PHP to solve this problem. But again, Dreamweaver, we use something called the Dreamweaver templating system in order to do that. And the key thing that you need to remember going forward from this point is that there are areas on your page or regions on your page that are common to multiple pages, and there are areas on your page that the content is entirely unique to that page. So in our case, with our template, the name area here, the top navigation, the banner, our sidebar, and our footer are all going to be template regions. Those are going to be regions that are going to be the same on every single page in our site. It's only going to be this content region in here that the content is going to be unique from page to page. So this is actually going to be the editable region on our page. In Dreamweaver, you don't have to define what's a template region and what is an editable region. You just define what the editable regions are, what the unique areas are on a page, and then Dreamweaver assumes that any page that uses that template, any other regions are common regions. And again, once you see this in practice, this will make more sense. This is probably a little bit confusing to many of you right now, but don't worry, when you actually see it work, I guarantee you it will snap into place. So coming back into Dreamweaver, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell Dreamweaver that this content region right here is an editable region. So everything in here is an editable region. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here to the left of my H1 and hit enter a few times just to give myself some open space. And I'm going to click on one of those blank lines and I'm going to go to the insert menu and I'm going to select template. And you're going to see an option here for editable region. I'm going to select that. It's going to bring up a warning that's going to say that Dreamweaver will automatically convert this document into a template. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK on that. And I need to give the region a name. I usually use the name of the div or the ID of the div as the name of the editable region that it contains. So I'm going to go ahead and call this content. And then click OK. And you're going to see some new code was added here. And I'm actually going to click right here and hit enter a couple of times. And so that's a little bit easier to see. So this is the opening tag of your editable region, and this is the closing tag of the editable region. Anything that's in between them is going to be editable on the template, and by default it goes ahead and just puts the name of that editable region in there for me. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that and just hit enter a couple times because we don't need that. But what we do need to do is we need to move this closing region tag to down here in between our last paragraph and our closing div. So you can see how I was able to do that. And it doesn't matter the indentation on that. Again, what matters is the fact that this is as clear as and readable as possible. So we're saying everything that begins here and ends here is going to be editable, or is going to be a unique region on the page. Everything outside of that is going to be a template region. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this document. But this time when I save it, a new dialog box is going to appear. Up to this point, we've just been saving the same HTML page over and over and over again. But we need to save this actually as a template file, not as an HTML file. And down here it says save as. You can name this template whatever you want. Since this is the main template for our site, I'm going to call it main. That's the reason why I named my HTML page main. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And if it brings up this dialog box for you, you will definitely click yes on that. And that's going to modify your web page a little bit. You're going to notice that it actually inserted an editable region in our head section right here. So you can customize, put any custom code for your head region in here. But the rest of this, it didn't really change at all. And again, I can go ahead and add some spaces in there. Again, just so that this is more readable. You're also going to notice that the extension for this file is different. It's .dwt, and that stands actually for Dynamic Web Template. A lot of people think it stands for Dreamweaver Web Template or Dreamweaver Template, but it's actually Dynamic Web Template. You're also going to notice that a new folder has appeared over here in my file list called Templates, and that's where that main.dwt file exists. And that's all you have to do to create a template inside of Dreamweaver. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go to File and Close All to close all of those pages. So, and you can see I still have main.html here as well. At this point, we're going to stop using that file because we've already made the main file. So now let's go ahead and actually make the pages for our website. And you'll remember we had in our template 4 different pages. The welcome page, which is going to be index.html, about, which will be about.html, the sample page link, which will go to sample.html, and contact, which will be contact.html. So I'm going to go ahead and right click right up here and select new file, and I'm going to call this index.html. Right click and do another new file, about.html, sample.html, and contact.html. So I now have the 4 pages that are going to make up my website. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up each one of these pages and apply the template to it. So I'm going to go into open up index.html first, go into code view, and remove anything that's in there. So I have a completely blank and empty document. Then I'm going to go to the modify menu, select templates, and choose the apply template to page. I'll select main and then click select. And I'm going to save that. Do the same thing. I'm going to open the about page, delete any existing text that's there, go to modify, templates, apply template to page, and apply that. Now I'm going to go to sample, delete all the text that's there, modify templates, apply template to page, and then contact, delete what's there. Very important to delete what's there. If you don't delete what's there and you're just in design view and you go to modify templates, apply template to page, and select it, it could give you an error. And if it says it's something to the effect of I don't know where to put this other code, then that's the key, or that's your indicator that you forgot to delete the information. In this case, it actually worked out for me. But if I was to type in some information here and then go ahead and try and apply this template to the page, you're going to see an example of this error. It's wondering, okay, what do I do with this material here? So very important, before you apply your template, make sure that you're starting with a completely empty page. And just because the page looks blank in design view doesn't mean that there isn't some code behind the scenes. So we'll go ahead and apply that template there as well. Now I want you to notice, and actually it changed my font size here for me. This is a little bit more difficult to read. If you want to change the font size for your code view, all you have to do is go to the edit menu and select preferences. And in the preferences dialog box, you're going to see fonts right here. And you choose the size of your fonts, of your default fonts right here. In this case, for code view, it's listing the font I'm going to use and the size. I'm going to increase that to 16 and click OK. And now you can see the font has increased. If I was actually working on this page, I would probably make my font much smaller so I can see more at one time. But I like to make it larger so it's easier to read in the video. But you can set that to whatever you think is appropriate. Now you're going to notice that unlike main.html, where all of my code is in a regular color, when I look at these pages, and I'm actually going to go to File, Save All here. When I look at these pages, the code is actually grayed out here. And the grayed out code is the code that makes up the template regions or the common regions. You can't modify any of this code in a template region directly. And you can see if I try and modify company name here, I'm getting this little circle with the line through it. I can't even highlight that. And that's again because this area is not really part of this page. It is, but it's not. It's controlled by that template file. You'll see that a little bit later. When we hover over our editable region here, you're going to see there's this blue box around it. And when I try and highlight or make some changes here, it will let me. And when I look at this in code view, you can see the code inside of my editable region is not grayed out. That I can make some changes to. So if I decided to come in here and add somebody's name, You'll see I'm able to do that. But if I tried to do that over here in my right hand sidebar, that's not going to work because that's a template region, not an editable region. Could we make this into an editable region? Certainly, just by adding the editable region to the template before you actually create your pages. It's important you have to do that really before you create your pages. Adding editable regions later on to existing pages can be very, very difficult to do and can actually break Dreamweaver's templating system. So you want to make sure your main.html or your main.dwt has all the editable regions you're going to want to use before you start creating your individual pages for that. So editable regions and template regions. So we've seen how we can edit a part of the editable regions. How do we edit the template regions? You know, for example, let's say I wanted to add, or let's say I wanted to change Susan's last name from White to Whittier. To do that, you don't make the change actually in the page, you make the change in the template file. If I open up main.dwt, now you can see all those template regions. I can highlight, edit, do whatever I want. Notice that change didn't cascade into the editable region over here when I added Susan's name there. But now what I can do is I can click in that right-hand sidebar and type Susan Whittier and save. When I save the file, it's going to bring up this dialog box for you. And it says, what this is basically saying is these 4 pages use this main.dwt file as their template. Should I update these 4 pages with the change or changes that you made? Now, oftentimes when you're changing a template, you may want to make more than one change and you may be saving just as you go along. You don't always have to click update here. You can click don't update and this dialog box just goes away. And then I can come up here and make a change if I wanted to. Sample heading from sidebar heading. And again, if I want to make more changes before I update all my pages, I just simply click don't update. It did save the page, but when I look at my index or any other of my pages, you're going to see that change has not been added on. When you've come to the place where you're done making changes and you want to update all of your pages, I'm just going to come along in here and make one more change. When you save it, at that point, you're going to want to hit update. And it should say, this should happen really quickly unless you have hundreds of pages in your site. It should say done right here, and then you can click the close button right there. And now when I go ahead and open up my index page, you can see sidebar heading has become sample heading. There's Timothy Quinn, Susan Whittier. The changes that I made to my common regions have all been applied. So that's the purpose for using templates inside of Dreamweaver. It speeds up the process of making changes to common regions, but still allows you, in this index page, instead of saying main heading here, I might type welcome. The about page, I might highlight this and type about our company. So these changes are unique to the different pages in our website. And the editable region takes that into account. So now when I go ahead and preview this in Chrome, you can see the unique pages or the unique headings come up for each one of our pages. And there are a lot of people who the only reason why they purchase Dreamweaver, or the only two reasons why they might purchase Dreamweaver: one, its file management works really, really well, and the other is its templating feature works really, really well, and makes maintaining websites really easy. That said, there is a limitation to what you can do with Dreamweaver's templating feature. Generally, I tell people Dreamweaver's templating feature is great for websites that are in size anywhere from a few pages to about 100 pages. Theoretically, Dreamweaver's templating system could handle thousands of pages, but once you get beyond about 100 pages, the limitations that are beyond the scope of what we're talking about in this class, but the limitations of Dreamweaver's templating tool will start to make an appearance. But again, most websites, and I think certainly the websites that people are going to be working with in this class, most websites are not going to have more than 100 pages in them. And again, I'm just sort of using the number 100. The reason why I use that number is that just from my own personal experience. I've done websites that are larger than 100 pages and used Dreamweaver's template, and I've been fine. But I've also had larger websites that Dreamweaver's templating feature starts not working very well for me. But again, I don't think anybody in this class right now is going to be working on templates that are sites that are larger than 100 pages. If you are working on sites that are that large, a better feature or a better way to manage your page content is using PHP includes. But again, that's for sites that are, well over 100 pages in size. Dreamweaver's templating feature works great for the scope that it's supposed to work in. So now we actually have a fully functioning website. The only thing that's left is to go ahead and actually customize our website so that it actually looks like a real website and not just like a black and white template like what we have here. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and create this web page from this template. So let's go ahead and get started in doing that. The first thing that I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and copy the images that I'm going to use for this example into my site folder. So I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, here I am on my desktop, and I actually have a folder here called Xander that I've just placed all the images that I'm going to use for this website inside of. And I'm just simply going to go ahead and drag that into sample website 1. And now we'll go back into Dreamweaver, and I'm going to close that out. And here's sample website 1. Remember, sometimes you have to refresh in order to see images that you've added. And since these are images, I'm just going to drag that up into the images folder. And this contains a lot of different things inside of it, including the banner image and the background image that I'm going to use. And I could just simply drag these up into the appropriate folder if I wanted to. In this case, I'm going to leave them alone inside of the Xander folder. So now I'm going to go ahead and actually delete these additional files right here, because we're not actually going to be using those in our project. And so now I'm just left with main.html. So now I'm going to go ahead and double click on that to open up my template. Now, when we're looking at our project website, we can see I have Xander Cafe here, but I don't have this tagline underneath it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that from there. And I'm going to change company name just to say Xander. And then we have our links over here. And you can see the links are a little bit different here. I've got welcome, about, menu, wine, entertainment, and contact. So welcome, about, and contact all work, but sample page needs to be replaced. And I need to add in those additional links. So I'm going to go ahead and actually highlight that, copy it, and paste this in a couple more times. And then I'm going to go ahead and change this to menu, wine, and entertainment. And then contact is fine. Then I also need to change my page names here because they're not going to be pointing to sample. Leave the ... in here. We'll talk more about what that means a little bit later. But I'm going to create a page called menu.html, wine.html, and entertainment.html for these different pages. And I'll save that. And again, you're going to notice at this point, when I saved the template file, unlike the other times, it didn't say, do you want to update the pages? And that's because I deleted all those sample pages that we created from the template. So now we have our menu done here. Next thing we need to do is we need to replace this black and white banner image here with the actual image that we want to use in our site. There's a couple different ways you can do this. One, you can go into design view and just double click, and that will bring up this open dialog box, and then I can go find my image and place it in here. And there's my banner, and that will replace that. Or if you like working in code view, all you've got to do is highlight everything in the quotation marks, type a quotation mark, and then click on browse, and that will bring you into the same dialog box. Totally doesn't matter which one you do. When I go into design view here, let's switch out these images. There's image 1. There's image 2. Here's image 3. And here's image 4. Whoops, forgot to go into Xander. There's image 4 right there. So now I've got all my images in here. If we look, actually I don't have all my images in here. If we look at my footer area down here, I actually have these social media icons. So I'm going to come in here and click in my footer and just hit enter. And if you're actually putting an image in, you can go into code view like we did before. But in Dreamweaver's design view, one thing you can do is you can simply just drag those images into the place you want them. Like I can drag Facebook there, then YouTube, then Twitter, and then RSS. So you can do drag and drop as well as going directly into the code. and then I can click on that image there and type the link to my Facebook page. When you're typing in a link to an external page like Facebook, you need to type in the http:// before you type in the full web address. I'm going to do facebook.com/TimothyWebDesign. And now that will link to my Facebook page. And I can do the same thing with the link to my YouTube channel, my Twitter page, and if I have an RSS script, I can set that up as well. You can also just simply copy and paste this link from a browser window. So you could open up Google Chrome or any other browser, find the page you want to link to, copy it from the address bar, and paste it in down here at the bottom. So now I've gone ahead and added my social media icons as well as altered my pictures that are here. And I have a couple other pictures in my sample file here, but you get the point as far as how we do that. Now the next thing I want to do is I actually want to change the way my backgrounds appear. So I've got my main page background as well as the wrapper background right here. So we need to change those two items. So for that, again, I'm going to go into my CSS file and open up styles.css. And the wrapper, instead of the background color being white, I want to change it to sort of that orangish mauve color that I chose. And whoops, I did that so fast, I'm sorry. In background color, I can just delete the color that's there and type a quote. That's going to bring up the color shortcut. I just click on that or select that, and it brings me in here. Now, if the color that you're looking for is listed here, you can just simply click on the color you want. But you can actually mix any color you want in Dreamweaver by selecting this little color wheel icon right here in the upper right hand corner. When I do that, it's going to bring me in here where I can click on almost any color that I want. And you can see I can select the base color here, and then I can go ahead and adjust that so that it looks the way I want it to look. So I think that's about right for the color of my background here. And I can click OK. Remember, this is a case where it's very important to remember to check your punctuation. You know, if I look at this, this looks like it's correct until I realize I forgot the semicolon on the end of that. So I need to make sure that I get the semicolon on there. And now when I look at that, you can see the color that's been added to the background of my page. Or if I preview this in Chrome, you can see the background color that's there. And that's not an exact match for the background color, but it's close enough. Now I need to go ahead and change the background color for my page from this gray to using that large image. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, jump back into Dreamweaver here and go into my style sheet. Here's the body tag, and here's the background color that I've set for that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Just take that out of there. Click at the end of this style, and here's where I'm going to tell Dreamweaver to use an image for my background. Instead of the property background color, I'm going to use the property background image. And when I use background image and type a colon, again, you're going to see that browse option there. Very helpful in Dreamweaver. And I just click it or hit enter, and it brings me into this selection dialog box. And I just need to find the image that I want to use, which in this case is this large background image right here. I'll click OK. Remember to type in my semicolon. and then hit enter. Now, by default, anytime you define a background image, the image is going to repeat if there's enough space. And you've probably seen tiling or repeating backgrounds. A lot of times you want to do that if you're using, let's say, a gradient or a texture for a background. And again, that's the default action, so you don't have to do anything to make the background image repeat. But if you are using one large image like we are, and you want that image not to repeat, you need to specifically tell your website in your CSS. And for that, you're going to use the CSS property background repeat. And the property value you're going to use is going to be no repeat. So we'll save that and go back into Chrome, and let's check out the way this is going to look. And there we go. I've got my background image in there. But you're going to notice one thing here, because I said don't repeat. At the bottom here, I've got this big open white space because the image isn't large enough to scroll down and see the rest of what I'm working on, or the rest of the page. So there's a couple ways around that. One is I could say, or I could go into Dreamweaver, and instead of saying no repeat, I could say repeat, or I could use repeat as the value. And now when I refresh the page, you're going to see that the image repeats. But that doesn't really look very good. If the image you're using isn't meant to repeat, if it isn't meant to tile, usually you're going to get a seam like this that doesn't look very good. So what we actually want to do is we want to go back and we want to set this for no repeat, and then we want to use a third property. And the third property is background attachment. And the background attachment value should be fixed. And this is a very common setup whenever you use an image or a photo for your background. You define your image, set it not to repeat, and then change the background attachment to fixed. And what that's going to do, when I save this, is notice that as I scroll, the background image is staying static. It's saying fixed in its place. So when I scroll, just the page itself actually scrolls. And that's that background attachment property. So moving along, we've made a lot of progress towards what we're actually doing here. I've actually, there's a slightly different color that's right here, and my background, I've actually zoomed out more. There we go. It looks the same now. But I can make this whatever background shade I want. And actually, I do want to change that because that is a really ugly color there. And this is the color that I want. It's more of a beigeish color. So I'm going to come in here and change my wrapper background color from what it is to something slightly different. There we go. That's, I think, roughly the color that I want. There we go. So now it's not exact, but you get the point. I can change that to whatever I want. The next thing that I want to go ahead and do is I want to use a font for my headings, a different font for my headings. And you can see here I'm just using Arial. Now, using fonts on web pages can be a little bit, I also need to put some spacing in down here. I just noticed that. And let's actually go ahead and do that before we do fonts. You can see my images are right up against my text there. And that's in the footer region, so I'm going to come down here and footer IMG, because I'm just targeting images in the footer, which are those social media icons. And I'm going to go ahead and put some padding on these images. And I'm going to give it 10 pixels of padding on the top, 3 pixels of padding on the left and the right. Or I should say 10 on the top and the bottom and 3 on the left and the right. And now when we come in here and take a look at this, we now see there's some more spacing in there. So next thing we want to go ahead and do is we want to customize the font for this area in here. Now fonts in web design over the last few years have really broken out. There's a lot more you can do with fonts. It used to be that if you wanted to use a font other than Arial, Times New Roman, or Courier, you had to actually make the text into an image. And so all of your fancy headings were images. That was terrible for SEO or for search engine optimization. And it was just generally really difficult, especially when you wanted to change things. It's now possible to embed fonts into your web page. And again, whenever you're using a font other than the 3 basic fonts that you know every computer is going to have, Arial, Times New Roman, and Courier. Anytime you're using any font other than those 3, you're going to want to embed the font information into the page. Otherwise, if you use a font, let's say you've got you've got your Fabulous font, and you use your Fabulous font, you've got it installed on your computer, and you decide to use it on your web page. Well, that font is on your computer, but it's not going to be on your visitor's computer. So if you don't embed the font into the page, the visitor is just going to use whatever their default font is, which is probably either Arial or Times New Roman. So again, things like body text, can very easily be Times or Times New Roman or Arial, but it's your headings and your titles that you're going to want to change. There are a couple of different ways to embed fonts into your web page. I would recommend that you go to a website called Font Squirrel, font and then squirrel like the animal, and they have a lot of fonts that you can use on your web pages. But that's actually not the technique we're going to use right now. It's actually a little bit more difficult technique. The reason why I tell you to go look at it is that it gives you more options. So as you develop your skills in web design, Font Squirrel or services like Font Squirrel will give you more options than what I'm going to show you here. What we're going to do here is going to use Google Web Fonts. And actually we use Google Web Fonts in all of our projects. Just because it's simple and easy to use and doesn't have all the options in the world doesn't mean that it's a bad choice. It's actually a very good choice. And I'm going to go ahead and open up a new web page here, and in Google I'm just going to search for Google Web Fonts, and you're going to come up with Google Fonts here. And here's a website that has a collection of fonts that you can use on your page. And you can scroll through their different fonts here. They're actually organized not in alphabetical order, but in order of the trending by the week. So the most popular fonts week by week come to the top here. I have no idea why a font like this would be popular, but apparently it is. But you can scroll through here and you can find just dozens, or there's actually I think about 700 fonts right now for you to choose from in Google the Google Web Fonts tool. But you can also search for fonts over here. And the font that we want to use is a handwriting font. So I'm going to click this drop down arrow here for categories, and I'm going to uncheck serif, sans serif, and display, and just leave myself with handwriting. And you're going to see all the different handwriting fonts that you can choose. And the font that I'm actually using is Tangerine. And you can see it comes up right here. Now to use the font, you're going to see these icons right down here. The one you want to click on is Quick Use. When you do that, it's going to open this page up here for you, and you're going to see two pieces of code that you need. You need this piece of code right here, and you need this piece of code right here. This is for your HTML, and this is for your CSS. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, copy it, and go back into Dreamweaver and go into my template file. And in Code View, I'm going to come up here to my head section. Now, since this is a change that's being applied to all the pages, I want every page in my website to be able to use this font, I'm not going to put it in the editable region for the head section, because it's not applying just to one page. I want this to be available to all my pages. So I'm going to click just right below link and paste that in there. So this link, just like this link creates a link to a style sheet, this link statement is creating a link to a Google Web Font. And you can see we have the same property value, or I'm sorry, we have the same attribute here, href equals, but instead of pointing to a local file, such as right here, we're actually pointing to the Google Web Font. You're also going to notice here I've used double quotes, and here Google is actually using single quotes. It does not matter whether you use double or whether you use single quotes. So you can use either one, you can mix them, match them, totally doesn't matter. Single quotes or double quotes will work with your link statement. For everything everything else, the only thing I would recommend is that you be consistent. If you use quotes one place, use them everywhere. If you use single quotes, use single quotes everywhere. So now that's available. Now I need to go ahead and use the second piece of information here, the font family, to actually define what should use that font. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that and copy it. Come in here to Dreamweaver, and here's the name section. And you're going to remember here, name H1 is what says Xander. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to bring myself down. And I'm going to select name H1, my H1 tag, and I'm going to paste font family Tangerine, cursive in there. And make sure you get the closing semicolon. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my closing bracket in. And now let's go ahead and take a look at this, and let's see how this is going to look. And sure enough, there is Xander in that particular font. Now, if I look at this page in Design View, you're not going to see that font appear there in Design View. And again, this is another important reminder that Design View is more of a layout view. It's not a preview. If I click on Live View here or preview it in a browser, then I'm going to get a more accurate representation of what the page will actually look like. And I just need to go ahead and add in this font family statement here wherever I want to use that font. But before I do that, I actually want to do a couple of things here. We can see I actually have Xander Cafe here, but the font is larger and it also isn't bold. So I'm going to go ahead and font size is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and make it 36 pixels, and font weight is going to be normal. And now we'll go ahead and check this out. And now I can see I got the bold off of it, but still my font isn't large enough. So come in here and maybe make this 56. And now you can see it matches that size just a little bit better. Also, my top nav uses these elements or uses that font. So I'm going to want to, again, copy that. And here's my links. I'm already defined the font size and the font weight, so really all I need to do is paste that in there and then go ahead and check this out, and we can see the way that is going to look. I need to make a couple more changes here. I need to change the size. I'm going to change it to 28, and I'm going to make the font weight normal. And now let's see how that's going to look. And again, you know, the exact font size and whether you make it bold or italic really depends on what you're trying to accomplish in your design. I still think these need to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and make that 32. And I also want to go ahead and, instead of making that highlight to gray, I want to make it highlight to like a mauve like color. So I'm going to go ahead and come in here and just find a color that sort of matches what I'm looking for here, just to make it stand out a little bit more. Save that, and now we'll go ahead and take a look at this, and now you can see I've got a more appropriate hover color, and my fonts are a little bit larger for me there. I also want to use that font for my headings in my content and my right side area. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, if I haven't already, I'm going to copy that. And there's content H1. Paste that on in there. Here's content H2. Paste that in there. Whether you put that on a separate line or whether you keep it just on one long line is entirely up to you, and the way you like working. So there I go, and I've pasted that into my headings for both my content and my right side region. And so now when I refresh that, we can see the font has taken effect. That H3 hasn't been affected though, and that's because I don't have any definition for that in the right side. When I look at my main template, we can see team members here is actually a heading level 3. If I was to change this, highlight it and change it to a heading level 2, and then save it, now it's gone ahead and adapted to that. I still want to take the bold off of it and increase the font size a little bit for those two items there. So I'm going to go ahead and make the font size for my H2s or my H1s in my content area. I'm going to go ahead and make that 52. I'm going to make the H2s 34. And down here for H2, we'll also make that 34. And I want to go ahead and also set the font weight to normal. And I'm going to copy that from that H2. I'm going to paste it into the H1 and also into the right side H2. And now when I refresh this, we can see the headings are larger and they no longer have the bold on them. So that's really all there is to taking a website that starts off looking like this, like just a plain black, white, and gray template like this, and getting it set up so that it looks like this. Now I'm ready to actually go ahead and go back into Dreamweaver, close these out, and create the actual pages for my site. So I'm going to right click on top and I'm going to create index.html, right click again and about.html, and then we had menu.html, wine.html, entertainment.html, and contact.html. Remember, the names you use here should be the same as the names you used when you went in and set them up right here. And oops, that got a little bit out of line there. There we go. And now I'm going to open up Index, delete the content that's there, modify templates, and apply template to page. Scroll down. I'm going to change the main heading on the page to welcome to Xander. And now I've got my home page. I'll open About, and again delete the code that's in there and apply the template. Scroll down, make any changes I want. I'm going to change my main heading to About Xander. And I do this for each and every page in my website. Deleting the existing code, applying the template, and then customizing the editable region. And just a few more here. Modify templates, apply template to page, save it. You can see how easy it is using Dreamweaver's templates here to set up your pages. And then our last page, contact, modify templates, apply template to page. So we've gone ahead and we've successfully applied the template to each page, or created each page in our site and applied the template. I'm going to go ahead and close all of these. Oops, actually I wanted to keep Index open because I want to go ahead and preview this in Chrome. And now we can see welcome to Xander. When I click on About, we go to the About page. When I click on Menu, we go to the Menu page. And obviously we would, if this was a real website now, we'd begin to go in and customize the text and images on each individual page. We'd put the About information here. We'd put the Welcome information here. We'd put our menu here. But the actual process of creating the website is over and done with. Now it's just a matter of managing your content and adding all of your content to your page. Well, I hope this was a good introduction to Dreamweaver for everybody. And again, at this point, what I would recommend you do is watch the recordings of this class, go through step by step in Dreamweaver, and pause the video, do a little bit of work in Dreamweaver, watch a little bit more, pause it, go into Dreamweaver, work, and actually work through the different steps and create this template we see here, and then take your own text, your own images, your own page links, and create an actual website for whatever project you're working on. And that will really reinforce everything that we've learned in today's class. Now, there are a lot of things about Dreamweaver and about web design in general, obviously, that we haven't had a chance in this short course to offer or to talk about. We have the Dreamweaver Intermediate courses and tutorials that you can watch, and that's where you can go after you've mastered this information. Again, what I'm really hoping you take away from this class is that creating a simple but professional and easy to maintain website for yourself is not something that's terribly difficult to do. You saw us actually do that in the class. Actually, the part that takes probably the longest in designing your website is actually picking your images and creating the different text pieces for your website. It's going to take you a lot longer to get the content together than it actually is to pull your website together. And if you're considering making multiple websites, or if you're going to be working on web design as a career, creating these very useful generic templates will really help speed the process of creating websites, because you could take this exact same website and by using different colors and fonts, different text and images, you could make it look completely different than obviously what it looks like now, and completely different from any other website. This isn't by any means the only layout that you can use. It's probably one of the most common website layouts that you can use, and that's the reason why I've chosen to use it. But it's a very, very useful layout. So that's what I have for you in today's class. Again, I hope everybody has a chance to review the recordings of this session. You're going to get an email after class with a link to the page that has those recordings on them. It may take us a little bit to get the email sent out, but you should be getting that email shortly. And also, don't forget about the handouts for this class, the HTML and CSS vocabulary handouts. Those are going to be really great for you to review. And I hope I see you in one of our Dreamweaver Intermediate classes. Have a great time and a lot of fun working with Dreamweaver.